front, we'd like to open it up now for your discussion. And as I said, we're really going to take what we heard today and all the points that you made about the bulkhead, about the sports fields, all of those things, whatever it is you might say, and go back and develop this plan, figure out the costs, figure out the phasing. So any more questions? I think we have a microphone that we could pass around with. I think Dennis has that back there, so maybe we'll start. Dennis, why don't you start with the guy right to your left here?
Okay, sure.
I don't know that I need that. I have a big presence to few people. So my concern is that I see all these big parks, and I do think it's a great thing to match up because these are going to increase quality of life as well as some home values and things like that. My concern is how do we secure and how do we monitor them? Is there going to be, is there a plan for cameras? Is there a plan for some areas of the park to be gated when the park closes at night? Because the unfortunate part is I hate to see we just want to have people, maybe they don't necessarily care about our community, destroy our parks. So my concern is safety and security of the parks themselves.
We've already started on it, as you know, taking a look at cameras, particularly up in Florida, where we did have that incident a number of weeks ago. The same thing in our other parks. I think as this process goes along, we really need to take a look at it, take a look at those areas of security and how we know what happened. You know, because it is, you put kind of money that's being put into this. You don't want it destroyed.
Exactly.
We saw that happen.
Yep. So we want to make sure it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Any question?
Yes, my question may be premature, but running ponds on the other side of Sea Street, they're infested with all kinds of poison ivy, alien bigger phragmites.
Yes.
Is there anything in the plan to deal with these?
Yes. Well, as Beth had mentioned, that there is a sort of a balance between how much we want to open it up and how much we want to keep vegetation around there. Poison ivy, horrible, we would like to get rid of it. Phragmites, again, an alien invader that we would prefer not to have, but very, very difficult to eradicate Phragmites. There is some new research that suggests that Phragmites is not quite as bad as people thought in terms of wildlife value. It does have some wildlife value. This again goes back to a permitting issues, and because these are recognized wetlands, we do have to get DEC approval for all this stuff. So we're going to be looking to, we'll be going to DEC and talking to them and figuring out what we can do and what we can't do around the ponds. But ideally, we would like to eliminate Phragmites, introduce native plants, get rid of poison ivy, which stop people enjoying those ponds. So, poison ivy is easier to get rid of than Phragmites.
Well, I have one here. So, okay.
So I asked earlier about the management stuff, and you talked about infrastructure. And I understand a little bit about infrastructure. Is there a plan to look at including things like solar panels and stuff like that? You know, like have solar walkways and stuff to help reduce the cost of lighting within the parks?
It's definitely something that we would be open to looking at. There is also light fixtures that have their own solar panels built into them. So when you actually do like a solar array and then have to use that for lighting, that doesn't, you have to have so much of that it isn't that cost effective. But if you can include it in each light fixture, it's more cost effective. There's also other ways that we could use solar, like we've done projects where we've used, done solar pumps that do a water feature or something. And especially, I think when we're looking at, if we're doing a nature area or any kind of educational area, to include those kind of things like solar power, not only to power things, but to use it as as an educational tool would be very valuable. So even if, changing the ball field, for instance, is going to require new floodlights. The village has said that these floodlights are getting towards the end of their life. By putting in new floodlights, we can use more cost-effective lighting sources and bulbs, but powering floodlights by solar is really not something that is realistic. I think.
No, not floodlights,
Yeah,
but
but other,
lights and stuff
yes,
like that. You
exactly.
talk about the ones that have individual solar
Yes.
panels, the water pumps like you were talking about,
Yeah.
in Queens, they did that part of the water, which is done,
Right.
solar power.
Yeah, so it's definitely something that we've been looking into, using whatever, being as low cost, low maintenance, low like overhead for operating costs is all the benefit of that.
Yes.
It's all very exciting. Glad that you're considering tables and some shade, that's being considered, because that's important. On a lighter note, I want to revisit two things. One was the skating and one sledding. Now, sledding seems almost impossible, but which of the parks were you even considering?
I would say
Sledding.
just shorefront,
Shorefront,
because
right.
if we can introduce some hills into there,
Yeah.
you could do sledding. In other places, for instance in Rockaway, we did that, and what they actually do is in the winter they come and put hay bales around the bottom of the slope to protect anything like, say, benches or planting, and then people can sled down the slopes and the hay bales kind of protect the things that are on the other side of the slope. So,
Oh, that's so cute.
yeah,
And don't give up on the skating.
okay.
There are some Norwegians in Patchogue who are skating. Thank you.
Just another point of information, and I hadn't even mentioned it, is I met this afternoon with New York Rising, and the properties that, where they're talking about the sculpture park, there are a number of other homes. We may have opportunities to pick up some of those other homes that are along Smith Street, where they may be purchasing them, and then they would be turned over to us, and they would become part of the parks. And the other one is the corner of Main Lane and Cedar Avenue. I talked to Bruce and Stephanie earlier about, that'd be 2.5, 3 acres, 2.5 acres.
0.85.
What's that?
0.85 acres.
Really, it seems huge.
All
I'll
those
be
connections.
that to maybe is that when we're meeting with people in that neighborhood to talk about how we use that property as a passive recreation area, walking park. One of the thoughts that we had was the possibility of moving the 9/11 memorial over to that area and making it really a passive area where people can go down, take the dog for a walk. That's dog park, but really make it passive. So there's going to be some other opportunities in terms of properties that may come to us from New York Rising, and some that we already have. So and for us, it's worth a look because it is around the park.
Better question.
Good evening, everyone. For instance, for years, the village of Patchogue has had many difficulties with illegal volleyball games. And I think as a whole for the community, if we could include a volleyball somewhere, it would benefit the community. I would hate to be one of the neighbors of these illegal places. And also, this is a culture in a way. The volleyball is a culture thing. And their excuse is that there is nothing in the village of Patchogue, so they have to go to these places. It's not that everyone wants to go to these places, but this is the only place they can go to enjoy themselves. And it's a volleyball. It's a little bit higher than regular volleyball. And I think we have plenty of space to include that and maybe be strict on the people that have these illegal games. And the village would benefit as a whole.
Yeah, I'm not sure I totally understand what's illegal about.
What do you think would happen in this ordinance? There are volleyball leagues that people are serving back walls,
Right.
which you will have on a Sunday afternoon, like 30, 40 people.
In one
Come
house.
together, participate in this, creating some happiness,
Yeah.
some
okay, I got it.
And,
Yes.
and I think that when you look at those spaces that you talked about, you might create some of those kind of spaces in places that we do.
Right,
So the community, that's they cannot go anywhere else.
yeah,
And these places, they offer the volleyball games, and they will go there and they will stay there. And also the soccer, it's a paved soccer field, but it's very slow, just like the volleyball. It's not a big space. That's why they have it at the houses,
Right.
and they just pave the way.
right. Well, definitely, I mean, you know, all the residents of Patchogue should be able to enjoy the parks, and we want to provide opportunities for people to use the parks, you know, for all residents of Patchogue.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment on the right there. I have a couple of school-age children, and one's a teenager and one's right here. He's very young. I absolutely love the plan. I love the splash pad. We've taken them to different parks in the area, and also to Central Park, which has a nice little splash pad. I love the skating rink because it does give us an opportunity to do something off-season. And as you know now, from when I was growing up, we used to utilize the parks, you know, quite frequently. And now we're competing with video games and cell phones. So having things for children to do in the park, I think, is a great opportunity for us as parents who have school-age children or children who are going to be utilizing those parks. And that looks fantastic. Even the beach looks great. So I wouldn't change a thing. The only thing I would change in there is I put me on one of those benches with a big smile on my face. That's basically the only difference. But that's fantastic. It really is. So, you know, you were making comments as far as prioritizing, you know, in my eyes, and maybe it's because I live closer to it, is Shorefront Park is really kind of, you know, the central park in my eyes of Patchogue. It's really, you know, a key location where we have the South Bay Music Festival and you know, the docks and so forth. So I'd love to see that get done before this guy, you know, is too old to enjoy some of those activities.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to say, though, that the village of Patchogue does do a great job with programming events for kids. And I think that Maria, who, if you stand up, would be very welcome to hear any suggestions. She's so open to hearing stuff from people, and you know that there's things that can be arranged or whatever, and they do run some great camps and different activities for kids. So there's a lot out there now. We just hope it's even going to get better. So.
Other questions?
I was just curious what the next step is going to be. I think a lot of people are looking forward to this and want this done as soon as possible. Our community committees can be set up, looking to grant writing, maybe looking out to other beneficiaries from the community, like what's happening next. You know, even as far as buildings.
For us, the next step would be really to look at the costs and then come up with, you know, what, I mean, we just heard one gentleman with his priorities, but if anyone else wants to, you know, let us know what the priorities are. So once we look at the costs, we can see how this could be phased to deal with the things that are most popular in the first phase of the work.
One of the things is that they have, New York State has a consolidated funding group, and those applications are in June. One of the things they always look for when they have those grants is, what do you match with? What are you able to do funding-wise? We're able to go and say, we need X number of additional dollars because we have this much of an investment already in place. Now, Senator Croce, with $125,000, realized that he was putting it in as part of a bigger plan. So what we'll look for towards the end of this year, the beginning of next year, to put together the grant application for that. Legislator Clark, I know, has put in for funding to work on Little Creek. And we're able to say to him, to the county, think the point is that we need to go out and do our work also and match as much as we can funding to expand, to be able to do the totality of this plan. You know, this plan is more aggressive, and more, it's more than a $5 million plan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it seems a lot of that.
It is more than $5 million.
But that's my job. That's where, you know, we step in and we get to look for friends. You know, my sense is that you do a good piece of this. And like the gentleman said, as a little kid, I'm almost more patient than your son is. Because I'm not a real patient guy. You know, I like to see stuff get done. I do it as quickly as efficiently as possible. So that's why we put the team together. We went with what we felt was the best to get it done the best way we can in the way we do it. So, regardless of the security and stuff, you know, those people being made a point with, I'm not seeing that. Spend on light tools. You know, from when you wear like that's what you went with the bars. The short front, you went to the pool, and that's what you do. This making those opportunities, the opportunities that many of us have in the world, those of us that come into the area, that can raise your kids to have those opportunities. Be able to have a park that can sustain something. And, you know, Trustee Hilton said, day one of this, the way we're doing some things in this park that you're not going to see. Much as what the gentleman talked at the beginning about how we part the shoreline to make sure that what we build stays, doesn't end up on Park Street. You know, and so that, but you may not see that, but there are things that are going to be done to make sure that this comes to sustainability. That's the big word that's out of sustainability. And how we sustain Park Street over time, how we sustain our downtown, how we sustain our neighborhoods. It's all about infrastructure, it's all about taking care of those things. So it is an exciting time. And there are other questions? Otherwise, I really want to share my question.
Good question.
Yes. Yeah.
We didn't hit up.
And two of the things to create a link for it.
The question was, will the presentation be available on the website?
I think we can do that.
We can do
Yeah,
that.
we can do that.
And also, and maybe what we can do also is make up a, such Dennis doesn't have 110 things.
Okay.
We create a,
That's dedicated to that.
Yeah, we'll have it go as a sideline tour, it doesn't flood your
Very simple. eSmith@patchoguevillage.org.
yes.
Any other questions?
There's another hand in front.
I was wondering if you looked at creating a connector from Four Sisters to Shorefront by extending the sidewalks along Ryder Avenue.
Very good question.
We have a huge festival that comes into the village every year, and we definitely need added sidewalks, and it would be nice to have a connector from Four Sisters to Shorefront.
Well, actually, I think one of the things that he's right there is that we should really need to do it from Bay Avenue School. It should go from the school all the way down. The same thing on Ryder Avenue. We're starting to get some prices and questions on that. Because those are one of those things that was consolidated funding grants that they look at also. Does it have a total community purpose engaged with? And Trustee Keys has been asking me for years and has figured this out. What are you going to do with sidewalks? Is that is also Ryder Avenue. It needs to be completed all the way down to Mars. Those are the two arteries that people take to get to the Mars. Bay Avenue from the school, Ryder Avenue to the neighborhoods. So you're right on target with that.
What are we going to do that this year?
Keep feeding them plants that are all around.
We can introduce bow hunting.
Gentlemen?
Now, we have these festivals,
Yes.
and they walk all of these
you have people all over the place. All that stuff that you say is going to be nice and everything, if there's not a plan, it's going to be trash.
Hi. Thank you, Mayor Pontieri and trustees, and especially Maria for all of her hard work. I want to just add one more route to the park, which is Cedar Avenue. I think you know my famous joke is I want you all to take the stroller challenge. I'm accessing this park in a stroller with many of our other friends here. There's a number of moms and small children in the area. And I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the presentation, but just looking at this, I don't see a huge amount of areas for benches, stroller parking, and shade by the existing playground area, which I think was, I know a number of people filled the survey out, and we all kind of coordinated and said, this is what we need. I don't know if the level of attendance of walking people is fully felt. On any given nice Saturday or Sunday at those playgrounds, there is probably at least 100 kids, 30 strollers, and nowhere to sit. There's 2 or 3 benches, no shade, and especially if you're coming with younger siblings, babies, and things like that, it's a big concern. And I love, love, love the hydration stations that Maria put in. And until we had that, there was not even a way to get a drink of water. And I had a lot of comments about the pool and sort of integrating the pool and the old Nancy's Crab Shack with this area. And I'm wondering if there's going to be any sort of provision for some sort of concessionaire. Because this becomes a destination. Even now, it's a destination for us, and we would love to be able to go down there. And the Heritage Park, I'll cite this example on Mount Sinai, they have a very successful concession station adjacent to their playground area, so you can kind of go down there at 10 o'clock in the morning, play for a couple areas, take a break, set up some picnic tables, get a hot dog, and then continue playing. And then I'll put my engineering hat and my hat on for a minute and just, there's a lot of us in the South Village, and I know the trustees are well aware of this, but that have a lot of, there's a huge flooding and drainage problems. And I love the plans to, possibly daylight Little Creek. I don't see that indicated on this plan, and that will take up a significant footprint away from this design. So I know that there's been some talk about that, and a huge part of this park right now is such a huge barrier for us with Sandy, and for all of us who didn't have that much damage, a big reason for it was this park. And so that's the other thing I just would like to see, some disaster-resistant measures. I'm sure Paul just said there's a lot going to be going on underneath, so I know that that's in everybody's minds, is what's going on underneath the surface. Just to make clear, the concession station was maybe a thought of, can Nancy's Crab Shack come back or something, and interlink the pool with this area. And I know everybody wants a spray park, and so this will be my last kind of, or I have one more comment besides this is just, again, this is so sensitive environmentally in this area, and the creek is so close, and I kind of thought we would have saw spring park actually, like Father Tutura or somewhere where you've got a lot more space to groundwater and you don't have to deal with health department issues. And then just lastly, I love about the existing park that there is the running loop that is actually a set distance. Is that feature still going to be incorporated in these paths that are there?
So basically the answer to all of your questions is yes, except for I don't know about Nancy's Crab Shack. But we, when we get down to the level of design of the playground, we're always very conscious of having plenty of seating. We understand that playgrounds are very social places where parents and kids come together, so we do want to make sure there's plenty of seating in the shade, stroller parking, all those things will be considered in detail. This is really just a sort of a concept here. We are talking about daylighting the creek on the other side of Smith Street, between the pond and here. It does not, from an engineering point of view, make sense to daylight this creek to the bay, because water will then be able to flow back up. Also, to answer your question about the walking paths, so we do have the paths around, new paths kind of coming around here, and we figured that if you did walk around that trail, that would be approximately half a mile. If you walked around the new paths at Wallbower Park, which is the other side of Ryder Avenue, the other side of Smith Street, that's also about a half mile, and those will be linked together. So if you did the whole route, that would be a mile of walking path. Is there another point? Yeah. So as also, I mean, we're very conscious of trying to protect the park and the areas behind the park from flooding and from future storms. And one of the things that we're looking to do there is to do edge treatments that will soften the flow of the waves so that you don't get as much erosion and you don't get as much flooding. We're also looking to build up the elevation of the park, so you actually have hills and berms that will stop flooding reaching the areas behind and offer some protection to Smith Street and those areas behind there. And that's something that we have done in other parks and has really worked very successfully. And also by introducing more like rain garden type planting areas, we'll be absorbing some of the water. That might not be that effective in a huge storm like Sandy, but in a smaller rainfall, you're going to get some benefit out of that. So we're really looking to be very careful with how we treat this in terms of environmental protection to the areas. I think we're very aware of that issue.
Yes,
A few years ago, for the people like myself who live in the park, there was a sort of like a little freak event where the water was blown west. As a result, the bay out about 400 feet was dry. And when we observed the bottom right here in front of our park, there was a lot of riprap, boulders, maybe from the old hotels that used to be there. It covered the bottom. So for the people that like to wade in the water, I mean, around that riprap, that bottom is sandy, it's smooth. But every couple of feet, you hit one of these boulders. Anybody with a boat knows you can't come in close to shore here without impinging on one of these boulders. I think one of the things we could consider would be to pick up those boulders, weather permitting, calm water, because you can see them, pick them up and incorporate them into the park. And they're very nice looking boulders, a lot of character. It would accomplish two things. It would make a much nicer bottom for us to go out and wade out there because the water is getting clearer with the new breach. As everybody knows who lives on the water's clearing up. You see we've got a beach here, but you couldn't walk out too far without hitting this riprap. And again, you could pick these things up, bring them into the park, and incorporate them into the landscaping of the park.
Interesting, and that's something I think we're going to have to research the history of that.
just a side, not part of this project here, but many of you may not agree. So the quote, not only the 125 that you got for parks, but it also given to the village, even though it's for Cape Town property, 600,000 towards the rebuilding of the East Jetty as we go out to Patchogue River. The village has committed $100,000 towards that project, and Cape Town will be putting another $300,000 to rebuild the jetty. One of the things that we're looking to do, one of my recommendations, suggestions? You'll get a response to everything that you said? Yes? Yes, walk right down.
And also, you know, like, tell your friends, because I know a lot of people probably couldn't come here tonight, or just, you know, wasn't available to come, so please just go back to your friends and neighbors and let them comment on that too, because we really would love to hear your views and your opinion to the best of the village of the candidates of what you guys are telling us right now.
Thank you very much.